Okay, we're recording.
Good evening. We'd like to welcome everyone to the Planning and Zoning meeting for Warrenton on Thursday, June the 3rd, 2021. I apologize for not being there, but we'll do the best we can. The first order of business tonight will be Mr. Burks will read the public hearing and public comment policy that we operate by now. Mr. Burks.
Okay, the public hearing policy. City staff will present and request inclusions of necessary items into the record. Applicants/representatives will be given 10 minutes to present projects and information. Public will be given 5 minutes to provide comments when buzzer goes off. 30 additional seconds will be given to conclude remarks. After the public has spoke, applicants will be given 5 minutes to address any issues, concerns brought forth during the public comments. This dialogue is with the board and not the public.
We can't hear you at all, or at least I can't.
You can scoot closer if you want.
He said you can scoot closer if you wish. Well, I don't think that's going to help any with it back to me.
Don't worry about it.
Speakers shall not directly question applicants. All comments are to be directed to the board, mayor, or attorney. On zoning matters that do not require a public hearing, the same protocol will be followed during the public comment section of each zoning items. At no time, the speakers are allowed to yield their time to another speaker to allow more than 5 minutes. During the agenda items, discussion and comments are from the board only will occur, no public input.
Thank you, Mr. Burks. Our first order of business tonight will be our public hearings, and our first public hearing will be the amendment to section 405.350, notice of public hearing amendment -117. City staff, is that Mr. Burks going to take that?
Yes.
Thank you.
The approval request for amendment section 405.350, notice of public hearing, AMD 117. As a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I will ask the publication notice published in the Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference. The city's comprehensive plan and city ordinances be made part of the record by reference. And the planning and zoning officer's report be made part of the record by reference. And I'm going to turn this one over to the city attorney, Chris.
Okay. All right, so we have here an amendment to section 405.350, notice of public hearing. So as you guys will know, we have put together this comprehensive board approved kind of policy and procedure, and also approved by planning and zoning, to really have a lot of order so we can ensure that everybody has equal time when they speak on particular events. When we did that, we also refined our procedural process, and one of the things we discovered was that for conditional use permits, we require a public hearing at both Planning and Zoning Board of Aldermen. We don't do that for a rezone. We don't do that for a site plan. We don't do that for anything but conditional use permits. Conditional use permits are slightly different than rezonings, which are legislative acts. Legislative is kind of the most discretion a city has. Quasi-judicial is where you're kind of taking the set of criteria that's baked into the code, and that's what a conditional use permit is, to say, we're okay with this use, but we may want to attach conditions to it. And we've done and gone through those over time. And so part of the thing is like we have a conditional use on for tonight that requires a public hearing at planning and zoning and the board. That really is unnecessary because, you know, you have a redundancy in the public hearing comments. We still have the public comments as part of our policy at both levels, but this is really to clean up that procedure so it's consistent. So I can answer any questions about it. Yes.
All right, so there's probably no one else to speak as far as the representatives, so we'll just, anybody from the public would like to speak on this behalf? Hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and open up our next public hearing, and that'll be the Ben Beckemeyer Construction Office conditional use permit that Mr. Graville just talked about, -76. City staff?
Okay, this project is the Ben Beckmeyer's Construction Office. It's conditional use and site plan. And it's 0.46 acres on the east side of Highway 47, south of East Lakeview Street. It's the old firehouse station. The applicant has been Beckermeyer Construction LLC. And as a preliminary matter for this public hearing, I'll ask that the publication notice published in the Warren County Record be made part of the record by reference. The city comprehensive plan and the city ordinances be made part of the record by reference. And the planning and zoning report be made part of the record by reference. Ben Beckermeyer Construction LLC has submitted an application for conditional use and site plan approval for 0.46 acres land on the east side of Highway 47 and east of Lakeview Street. The conditional use permit is request to allow a construction shop office with inside storage and home sales. The conditional use
Is there a
permit.
representative here to speak tonight?
Yes, there is, sir. The applicant's here and Bart Carmen from Lewis and Beatty's here tonight.
All right, Mr. Corbin, you all step to the podium and state your name and
It's done, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't want to boot him off the podium.
Yeah, so for the record, Bart Corman, Wilson Beatty Surveyors and Engineers. I also have Ben Beckermeyer with Ben Beckermeyer Construction LLC, who's the applicant for this conditional use and the site plan. There's two of them here, but I'll try to cover it all in one whack so that we shorten up the second one. It's basically the old firehouse on South 47. Going to utilize the existing building pretty much as is. There's a parking lot there, needs some striping. There's really no good place for landscaping, and there isn't any there that exists now. So we're proposing basically not to do any, if that's all right with everybody. The sidewalk, the asphalt parking, everybody's been walking on the sidewalk, so we're just going to leave an avenue there. For that, pretty simple, other than we're going to fence off a little bit of the back corner there. And that's pretty much it, and I'll answer any questions anybody has throughout this process.
thank you, Mr. Corman. Anyone from the public that would like to speak on behalf of this tonight? Anyone? Hearing none? The applicant won't need to rebuttal, so we'll just move on and close that public hearing and open up the Ben Beckermeyer Construction Office Site Plan -148, and we'll turn it back over to Mr. Burks.
This will be the same information that's Ben Beckermeyer
Thank you.
Construction Office did. It's going to be a site plan for 0.46 acres east side of Highway 47 and east of Lakeview.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Corman, did you have anything to add tonight to that?
I do not, for the record.
Okay. And I'm assuming there's no one from the public that's going to speak on this site plan since there was no one to speak on the conditional use permit. If that is so, we'll go ahead and close our public hearings for this evening and open up our regular Planning and Zoning Commission meeting with the first order of business will be our minutes from the May 6th, 2021 Planning and Zoning meeting. If we have any questions or comments or corrections, please state so now. If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to make the motion to accept the minutes as read.
I'll second them.
Motion by Mr. Cooper, seconded by Mr. Holt, is that correct?
Yes.
Durbin.
Mr. Durbin.
Durbin.
Seconded by Mr. Holt?
No,
Say again?
second by Mr. Durbin.
Durbin, Mr. Durbin, sorry about that. Mr. Cooper, seconded by Mr. Durbin to approve the minutes as stated. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Deach?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Barton?
Yes?
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Priest and Mr. Costello are both absent.
Motion passes 5-0 with 2 absent and 1 abstention. We'll move into our public comments for Steinhagen Boundary Line Adjustment Subdivision -91.
Okay, this is a boundary line adjustment, 305 Steinhagen Road. The applicant is Jeffrey and Lori Nipper, 305 Steinhagen Road. Jeffrey and Lori Nipper have submitted an application for a boundary line adjustment plat for 305 Steinhagen Road, which modifies Lot 1 and 2 into a single 24,302 square foot lot. Staff analysis, this area is zone residential under the provision of the R2 medium density residential district requirement. Any further developments of this area is subject to the review and ensure compliance with all provision of the R2 district and city code requirements. The comprehensive plan designates the entire area as single-family residential, and the proposed modifications to the boundary lines do not create any inconsistency with the future land use plan of the city. The plan modifies Lot 1 and 2 into a single 24,302 square foot lot, having one two-story frame and one story brick frame located on it. No modifications to utilities are proposed in conjunction with this change in lot configuration. Staff has reviewed the proposed boundary line adjustment plat and found that the proposal is consistent with Chapter 410 subdivision regulations of the Warrenton Municipal Code. The staff recommends approval of this plat and as submitted, and the applicant is here tonight. That's all I have on that.
Thank you, Mr. Burks. If the applicant wants to step forward and state their name.
I am Lori Nipper. And we're
Thank
wanting
you.
to put this into one lot because we were told, well, we're wanting a garage. And that's pretty
Right.
much it. We would like to make it's a nice garage. They told us once we get it into one lot, then I put a permit through to put the garage up. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone from the public would like to speak on behalf of this tonight?
Yes, I would.
Step to the podium, state your name, sir. For the record, thank you.
My name's Todd Bauer, and I don't know that I have anything to say about the approval of their combination of their lots, but I wanted to find out for sure about alleyways in the city that connect to the lot that they're wanting to use, and I was told I could come to this meeting and find that information out, and so I may end up needing to talk to Mrs. Nipper to see what their plans are.
Okay. Well, we'll have her come back up to the podium and she can answer that question maybe at this time. Mr. Nipper, if you want to move back up. Can you address the situation about the alley behind where he's
Yeah,
talking about there?
I know where he's talking about, and our plan is, it's kind of changed a little bit. Because oh, thank you, I'm short, I know, thank you. We already bought a portable garage, because before we moved here, you know, everyone knew our intentions, from our realtor to everyone. So after we move in, then this is all happening.
Right.
So we've already bought a portable one, which is 32 by 12. So it's a pretty good, and it's nice. It's a nice wooden one. It's not, you know, it's brand new. It's sitting over there on the side of the highway.
Right.
That's going to go toward the back behind our carriage house. So, and that's, nobody's even going to be, that's just going to be used for storage. We want to build, but it's going to be kind of down the road now with the lumber prices like they are, a 3-car garage. But originally, and I know my husband was talking to someone about the alley, and he spoke to someone down at the city because we were going to gravel the alley and put the garage back behind the house. That was like plan A. But, you know, as we keep living here, we were thinking, hey, maybe we won't do all that because we know, and I'm not sure who the guy is that parks in the alley. And we had talked about if we gravel it, we'd put a little off thing for them too. We'd pay for that so they'd still have a place to park. But I don't even know if that's, now we're kind of thinking putting it along the side of our house, almost connecting it right in front of a patio. So that's kind of plan B. I have like 2 plans. So I'm really not sure what his concern is. Maybe he can come back up, because I'm not real sure, because originally that was our plan, was to use the alley to get to the garage. I know we don't want to park on street parking. So, you know, I want my cars in a garage.
Right.
That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I need a garage for my cars. I have 2 collector cars that need to be stored. So that's my plan.
Thank you.
Chairman?
You're welcome.
This is Chris Graville, the city attorney. We had a
Thank you, Mr.
discussion, we had a discussion briefly, because I think, you know, we got a couple of different balls that are in the air here. One ball is ripe for planning and zoning to consider tonight, and that's the boundary adjustment, which is it consistent with the comprehensive? Does it meet the code? If it does, then it's a ministerial duty, it's a administrative duty to approve it. The location orientation of the garage, that will come in as a separate drawing. That is not being applied for here tonight. That is something that will come in. Determine it, this is in an older part of town that does have a publicly dedicated alleyway. The city does not maintain these alleyways. A lot of times,
Correct.
and I know you guys have seen this in the past, that the city has actually vacated the alleyway, and half goes to one property owner and half goes to the other. That may be an option here. If we don't maintain it, typically we don't allow public vehicular access knowingly there. So that'll be a discussion, really, the location and orientation. And if you want to try to get that alleyway vacated by the city, that's a process that's separate for this one. So the only thing on tonight, as you can see on the drawing that's submitted, is consolidating what is 2 lots into 1 lot, which will actually bring these 2 lots into compliance, because 1 lot has an accessory structure without a primary structure, which doesn't meet our code. So this will actually bring it into compliance and will allow her to have some additional accessory structures.
Thank you, Mr. Graville. All right, so hearing no other further questions or comments, I guess we'll address those other issues when they come back in front of us. Anyone else want to speak on behalf of the boundary line adjustment tonight? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close that public comment and open up the Cool College Addition Subdivision Preliminary Final Plat Subdivision 92.
The next project's going to be the Cool College Addition. It's 0.91 acres on Cool Avenue between College and Vauchel Avenue. It's a preliminary and record plat, SUBD-92. The applicant is ML Land Holdings, LLC. The project summary, this St. Charles Engineering Survey Incorporated, on behalf of ML Land Holdings, LLC, has submitted an application for a preliminary and record plat for a 0.91 acres area of land on the west side of Cool Avenue between College Avenue and Vauchel Avenue. The preliminary and record plat depicts 4 single-family lots with lot sizes, a minimum frontage requirement meeting or exceeding the R2 medium density single-family residential district. The comprehensive plan, the further land use plan within the Warrenton comprehensive plan designate the subject site as a single-family resident. The comprehensive plan notes that new residential subdivisions should meld into existing neighborhoods, and plan notes a desire for Cavalier streets, network, and numerous cul-de-sacs. The purpose of the meld into the existing neighborhood without need for new infrastructure that would impact existing development pattern. The staff analysis, sidewalks are not included on this proposed preliminary and record plat. Let's see. Therefore, the sidewalks are not included on the preliminary and record plat. Section 410.140.A.2 states that the developer of a land on each side of existing streets is responsible for installation of those sidewalks. College, Cool, and Vauchel Avenue all have existing Sidewalks are existing streets, therefore sidewalks should be included on the frontage on each of the applicable roadways. There's no changes to the stormwater along the road as proposed as the street existing. Section 410.180 and 430.050A requires all new developments to have on-site detention and several exceptions. The project has submitted a preliminary information that satisfies the requirement that is determined that there no immediate adverse impact would result to the adjacent property, and contribution is made to the Stormwater Management Fund. Section 3 states that the required contribution based on the differential in the pre- and post-development runoff shall be $200. The preliminary plat and record plat notes that the contribution to the Open Space Fund in amount of $1,152 is required. Staff recommendation: staff has reviewed the proposed preliminary and record plat and found that the proposal is consistent with Chapter 410 of the subdivision regulations of the Warrenton Municipal Code. Further, the proposed design of the residential subdivision furthers the goal of the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary record plat with the following condition: sidewalks to be installed along the frontage of all roadways. Contribution to the Stormwater Management Improvement Fund, an amount of $200 to be deposited with the city, and contribution to the Open Space Fund, an amount of $1,152 be deposited with the city. And the engineer for the project's here to speak tonight. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Birch. Would the engineer step to the podium and state his name, please, or her name?
For the record, my name is Jeff Schreier with St. Charles Engineering Surveying, and I'm here to represent ML Land Holdings and Houston Homes, who is proposing the 4 lots there along Cool Avenue. As Tim mentioned, we're not rezoning anything. The lots exceed the minimum for R2 zoning, 4 lots at 9,100 square foot. All utilities are present. There's really no improvements that has to be made other than the subdividing of the land. And we excluded the sidewalks on the preliminary plan. There's no sidewalks along Vauchel. There's no sidewalks along Cool other than what faces the school on the school side of the road. And the lot adjacent to this piece doesn't have sidewalk on College. So that's the reason we left it off. I did talk to the owners today, or the prospective owners and the subdivider, and they're probably thinking that we could build a sidewalk on College. There is a crosswalk right across. I'm sorry, to me it's still the old junior high. I don't know what elementary school it is now, but there is a crosswalk on College, or in Cool, in front of the what I call the junior high, over to College. And then, we could put one on the south side of College, but it still goes nowhere because the lot behind us doesn't have a sidewalk. Otherwise, I'm here to answer any other questions, and it's straightforward. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone from the city would like to speak on behalf of this? Any of the public?
There's public coming.
There's somebody coming?
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Melvin
State your name, sir, for the
Seckford,
record.
and I would like to say that it is a nice piece of property. First of all, if you look across over the schoolhouse, there's a lot of green space right there. The school is kept nice, it looks nice. You look down to the south, down on 3rd Street. There's 3 new houses been built there in about the last 12 years or so. They're spread out. They're on big lots, about 90 foot plus. They look nice. If you look back up and back to the west and to the north, up that way, you see most of the houses are older houses. The houses are well kept. They look nice. They're spread out. It looks nice. Now, I'm not in favor of putting 4 lots on that small a piece of property when you have that, don't have no space to go at all. It's just going to demote the property value of the houses around there and stuff like that. The next thing, having said that, the water problem down there. A week ago today, we had a hard rain. In probably less than 15 minutes, it come about 1.5 inches. The storm sewers right there did not take the water. They came over the road. If anybody's seen, you can see where the sweet gum balls that washed down. Everything, you can see where everything over the road. There's all that water comes down from the school. It comes all the way down from the ball fields up there, part of College Avenue, part down Boschel, and it just will not take the water. There were some houses down below that actually flooded out in their basements. And I know the city got calls on that, but nothing has been done about it as far as I know. So my suggestion that we do not put 4 lots on that and clamp that in that small space of town. Because it looks bad, it demotes the property value and everything like that. If you want to put 3 lots on there, where you can spread them out to 90-foot lots, I think it's a good idea. It's a beautiful place to put a house. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else from the public like to speak?
Ron Cook, and I don't own property on that street, but my mother does, and my son does on Boschel. And I agree with Mr. Sackford. Four homes is too much for that area. 2, but maybe 3. But the other, and I know the old city lots. My son, single family house with a fairly large garage, but he's got 3 lots just to do that. And I don't know, I think that's too much. I agree with him on the water problem also. Water gets to roaring through there. I mean, that field, you wouldn't want to try and walk across it after an inch rain. And then sidewalks there on College, the sidewalks did go all the way to that property. Now, I don't know if where the Bowen property used to be, if maybe that sidewalk's been torn out or something, but I think it's there yet. And I think being in that area, I really think there should be a sidewalk all the way up Boschel. I've been there, kids walking home from school in the street. Sometimes I park on the street if I'm working over there at my mom's house, so they're walking around my vehicle right out there in the street. So if that's the first part of a sidewalk, getting it through there, at least it's a start. You know, that gets them up to 2nd Street. So, but I just think, I love that it's single family houses. I'd rather see that than an apartment building or something. But I think 4 is too many. And I think we need to look at stormwater retention. I know it's not a very big area, but a lot of water comes down through there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Anyone else like to speak tonight?
My name's Peggy Cook. My parents have lived there for over 60 years, and I'm talking right next to there. I agree with the last 2 people that I really think 4 houses is just too much. 2, maybe 3, but 4, I just don't see it. Something was said about alleyway, and I'd like to know, that was one of my mom's questions, where's this alleyway that was brought up? In the letter it said something about an alley. We don't understand where this is at. Also, I would like to know, are they coming out, their driveways, are they coming out on Cool Street? Because this is Cool Street is a very busy street with the school and everything. So I mean, I didn't get to see the picture up close, so I don't understand a lot of things. I have a lot of questions. in that area.
Thank you, Mrs. Cook. Anybody else from the public would like to comment at this time? See no one will, oh, sorry.
Jake Heimberger for the record. I am on board with the last three folks that spoke. The stormwater is, you'd think it's Lost Creek going through there when it rains. Whoever develops it needs to do precautions for that, so with those people who purchase those houses don't end up with flooded basements, cracked basements, ruined basements, that then the bank takes over because nobody can afford to fix their basement and pay for their house. So the stormwater is obviously key. And then again, with everybody else, 3 houses is more than ample there to blend in with the rest of the large lots in that area. Everybody, I live on College, everybody on our street has nice big lots. We're not shotgun housed in there like O'Fallon or whatever. We need to make sure we keep that nice big space so everybody on our street and on Cool and Boschel still gets the compliments of how big our yards are, how nice our houses are. And we continue to get that even with a development if we have to get a development there. And the other thing that we discussed, fellow neighbors, a lot of us work late, the value of these houses that they're going to go for. Is that information we can get before this even starts so we know what to expect as it comes? We fight with the renters on each ends of the street with our property values, and they look at that and it doesn't help us at all. So we would like to also know that, what are these houses going to be valued at? And hopefully it turns out that there's only going to be 3 of them instead of 4. I don't know how this all works, if we can change that still, or if once they purchase it, it's their land or what. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public at this time?
Yep, we got one more.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy Schimpf. I live on College Avenue. I moved there about 12 years ago. We bought a foreclosed home. We've spent a lot of money fixing that house up. I think if you drive by, you can tell we put a lot into that house. My biggest concern is putting 4 houses on this lot. What's it going to do to our property values? We've been through 3 drug houses on our street with no help getting rid of them until one, thank goodness, burned down. What's it going to take for our property to be worth what we put into it? I know Jake lives across the street from me. Next door, Burton's house is being completely gutted and fixed up to sell, which we were grateful for. We've really got a nice area, and I think anybody that drives by will see that. So it's a big concern when you say you're putting 4 houses on this 2 lots, or supposed to be 2 lots. The other thing, has anyone done a study on the traffic? People are constantly turning around in my driveway to get to the school. They're going flying down that alley as fast as they can, and at least 4 days a week, I've got 5 cars whipping down my driveway to get to College Avenue. That's a private driveway. What's going to happen when you block all that off now and people can't park there? Where is everybody else going to go? Down College Avenue. So, when it's your property, when it's your home, it's a big concern. Again, the water runoff, we watch it every time it pours down rain, and it is a problem. And I feel bad for the people that live down in that area because it runs down our street into those lots and takes out down those houses. So I don't know if we can do anything about it or to change it, but I definitely think some changes need to be made to try to keep our city nice and make it beautiful and make people want to come out here and live. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Last call for anybody from the public.
Dr. Egan?
Anyone else, Melody?
Mr. Sector is back.
One thing I didn't mention a while ago, if you put your figures together, by the time you figure, divide this in 4 lots. By By the time you get a house on there, a driveway, probably a porch, a patio, by the time you get to city sidewalks and stuff like that in there, which I'm presuming should be required on all 3 streets, that over half of that property is going to be covered with either roofs, concrete, so there's going to be, even half of that property won't be in green space. So that's going to make that much more water come down the hill, down to the creeks down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. We'll give the applicant a chance to come back up and speak if he would like to. Answer any of those questions at this time.
He's coming back.
Thank you.
First of all, can the plat be put up with the preliminary plat?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
That's the record plat. Can we get the preliminary up?
And I've got mine in front of me, Melody, so.
That's what I had for preliminary. Wait, there we go.
There we go.
Sorry.
So, again, I guess, just state for the record, I mean, the lots all meet the city requirements. I would say, and I don't have the calculations in front of me, but less than 50% of each lot will be covered. There'll still be a lot of green space with those lots. What other question was, we looked at the stormwater, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, but the culvert up top is larger than the culvert below down on Vauchel. So I think is that where the issue is, on Vauchel?
There's a lot of issues on Vauchel.
Because of the sewer, these homes are going to be way up, so I have no issues with these homes ever having any water damage. We're having to hold them up pretty high because of the depth of the sanitary sewer in Cole Avenue. And again, I really don't have much to say other than I think the plat meets all the requirements for the city. So.
Thank you, sir. All right. At this time, we'll close that last public comment. Are we ready to move on, Melody?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, number 3 item on the agenda is the amendment to section 405.350, notice of public hearing, amendment -117, that Mr. Gurville explained to us earlier tonight. Did anybody on the board have any questions? It kind of made sense. If it's a redundant thing to move it into one, I think that's a good idea myself, so.
Yeah,
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
The only thing I would add, Rich, is we actually, even though we did it, we didn't know it was part of our code until we did that procedure and policy with the public comment, public hearing work. And so.
Okay.
That's why we're bringing it back to you, as we said, well, why would we do this on this and not on a rezoning? So it's not required by
Right.
law. It is an extra step. It's an extra publication fee that the applicant has to pay on it. You'd agree, Bart? It's okay to get rid of the second public hearing CUPs?
I'm absolutely okay with that.
Yeah.
I move to
Sounds
make
good.
approval for section 405.350 update as discussed.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Deitch to approve the amendment to section 405.350, notice of public hearing amendment -117. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 absent. Next order of business will be the Ben Beckenmeyer Construction Office conditional use permit -76. Anybody on the board have any questions or comments about this one at this time?
We'll want to make that a condition.
Barton, I just want to make one more comment on the Beckemeyer construction, that there's not going to be any outside storage at that location.
Right.
Okay.
So I think the point being, since we had that one on the highway where what's it called?
Cat 5.
Cat 5. There's
Cat
been
5, yeah.
a lot of questions and concerns about the quality of the fence and the storage and the equipment that's not supposed to be visible from the top. I do think it's important, since Mr. Beckmeyer doesn't intend to store any outdoor equipment or store anything outdoor, that we make it a condition so that people are not concerned about that. No outdoor
Right.
storage.
What about trash disposal?
Goes inside the fence that we're...
I'm sure that's why they're building that little fence in the back to enclose that, whatever they're gonna put back there.
Correct, Mr. Chairman, that's what that fenced area will have trash containers in it, so that's where, so it would be screened from the public in that manner.
Thank you, Mr. Corman.
Are you guys going to keep the residential units in there? Are there none in there? None, okay.
Okay. Was there any other conditions that we added to this one before you make a motion?
I don't see any additional conditions on staff recommendations.
That's why I didn't think so. A couple of these are running together since I'm not there, so.
That's all right.
All right. Anybody on the board commission there, do you guys have any comments or questions? I'm looking forward to this place being kind of kept up and driveway being redone there. I think that's going to add a lot to it, just having the driveway and the parking lot redone and somebody being there again and making use of that good old building there. So if anybody else has any comments or questions, we'll take them now, but if not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit 76 for the Ben Beckmeyer Construction Office as presented, along with the notation for the conditional use that there will be no external storage on site.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Holt, I think. Correct. To approve the Ben Beckmeyer Construction Office conditional use permit -76 with the addition that there would be no outside storage and the trash would be behind the fence. Thank you very much. And anybody else have any comments, questions? Roll call vote?
Mr. Barton?
Yes?
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 absent, or 3 absent, I'm sorry. No, 2 absent. Next order of business will be Ben Beckmeyer Construction Office Site Plan -148. The same kind of thing. It's the site plan with the one that we just agreed upon, and it was all the same information that was presented to us. I don't have any questions myself. Does anybody on the commission have a question? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
And we want to approve this with the same condition.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve SP 148 Ben Beckmeyer Construction Office with the conditional use notation that there will be no external storage on site.
Thank you, Mr. Cullum.
I'll second it.
Is that Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Cullum, second by Mr. Durbin to approve the Ben Beckmeyer Construction Office Site Plan -148 with the addition that no outside storage and the trash containers be constrained by the fence in the back. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes, motion passes 6-0 with 2 absent. Next order of business will be the Steinhagen Boundary Line Adjustment Subdivision 91. And it sounds like that all the questions that came up were things that are not being considered in that at this time. So it looks like that this will bring everything into code. So it sounds like a no-brainer that the subdivision -91 looks like a good idea. But anybody on the commission have any comments or questions that they would like to be addressed at this time?
I haven't been to that area in a while. There is an alley back there behind the property line? It looks like it's grass.
I think there's weeds back there right now.
Weeds, okay. Yeah, because I didn't see anything according to satellite. So
We find alleys. We're told of alleys and locate them all the time. There's a lot of alleys downtown we don't maintain, and that's the issue that'll come up is where they can face it and what happens is we don't maintain them and they kind of just organically become part of the neighbor's property. And then they sell the property, they realize they don't own it and they have improvements on it, and we typically vacate those alleys.
Okay.
But it's probably
Good question,
there.
Mr. Holt.
It's probably there. Yeah, it is there. As of today.
I'll make a motion, we accept, bringing two properties together.
And I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Durbin, second by Mr. Deeds to approve the Stan Hagen boundary line adjustment, subdivision -91. Any other questions by the board? Roll call vote?
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 2 absent. Next order of business will be the Cool College Additional Subdivision Preliminary Final Plat Subdivision -92. Fire away, board.
So one of the things I want to make a comment on this, there is a concern at the Board of Aldermen level right now with the minimum lot size. And I know that that's one of the things that was discussed at the work session last Board of Aldermen meeting was consideration of a joint work session to discuss with you all to raise the minimum lot size. I think in as respectful of a way as the engineer could, he essentially said, we meet the subdivision code, we meet the minimum lot requirements, and the law in Missouri is if they meet the R2 lot requirements for subdivision, then it must be approved by the city. So I know there's some concern about maybe one less house. That's really a question for the builder. It sounds like it's Houston Homes, if he would consider building one less house and maybe spacing them out a little bit more. But as far as our role from a municipal function, this does comply with our code except for the sidewalks. And I think there is a decision you all need to make, with regards to the sidewalks, because technically this drawing is not in compliance because it doesn't have the sidewalks, but it sounds like whether the builder likes it or not, consideration is going to have to be given for the sidewalks, as I think the engineer indicated that they'd like to put it maybe here or there. That is really the main issue for discussion for this body here tonight, is not whether or not you guys like 4 homes, whether or not 4 homes is appropriate. They meet the code. You guys are operating in that, wearing that ministerial hat. Do they meet the code? If they meet the code, then it must be approved. Like I said, it's a question for the developer if they would consider building one less home. However, you all do need to dial down and nail down what you want done with regards to the sidewalks.
Well, I'll open the comment on that. I think with the location of this, and even listening to the public, one of their biggest concerns, and it was across the board, that they were concerned about the sidewalk issue, and they would like to see them on all 3 sides. And I don't have a problem with that because of being located next to the elementary school. The more sidewalks that we have, and I know they don't connect right now, but in the future, we've always used, in every meeting, we always say, they're going to one day. So we can't say that they don't attach to something, because hopefully they will one day when we get that all taken care of. So I would make a suggestion that we put them on all 3 sides, but what do you guys think on the commission there?
I would agree with you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, same.
Me too.
And I mean, I don't think that that's
Public comments finished.
unreasonable request. And I love that property too. I've driven by it thousands and thousands of times teaching there across the street. I've often wondered why there wasn't homes there. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I like that neighborhood. And I know that most of the folks there take very good care of their properties, and I enjoy that. And so I hope that they build nice homes there. It looks like they're going to be nice places there, and I hope that they do, and leaving a lot of green space, because I know that's a big concern of such as Mr. Seckman and so forth, and the ladies there. And so I appreciate all the comments from the public, though. So if we can agree that we're going to put sidewalks on all 3 sides, I'll entertain a motion. Or anybody else have a comment or questions on the board?
Chairman, Chris Graville again. I did just want to make one quick comment. There was somebody from the public that stood up that wanted to speak again. There will be this will have to go in front of the Board of Aldermen once the public comment period's closed. So there will be another public comment period that you can come and speak at. I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Secondly, I just wanted to say, Chairman Barton, I was thinking when the sidewalk question came up, I heard Teresa Scott's voice in my head saying, you got to start somewhere. I don't know if you heard the same thing, but I just wanted to make that comment.
I did. And God bless her and rest in peace. Thank you. And I'm sitting here with her dear friend, Derek Forsythe, so he just gave me a fist bump that Teresa's name was mentioned tonight. Anybody on the board have any other questions or comments at this time?
At this point in time, do we delay this until we have another drawing with the sidewalks, or where are we with this?
You can approve it with the conditions. Can we go back to the conditions that were outlined there, Melody?
I got the contribution of stormwater of $200 and an open space contribution of $1,152.
I think you have it right there, Chairman Deach, is you can approve it with the following conditions: contribution stormwater management, contribution to the open space. And I also did want to say that Brandy and I talked about it, and she made a note that she's going to follow up with George Butler. They do have our engineer, the city engineer, contracted engineer, did review this project and did say the stormwater, based the way they're going to build it, is in compliance and does not increase the runoff. But we're going to take these comments back to George Butler to see if they have any further comments to make at the board level. But Commissioner Deach, I think those, essentially, a motion could be made with those specific conditions.
Thank you.
I understand from what you said, Mr. Gravel, that we really are in a situation where I have some sympathy for the residents in that area, and I tend to agree with them that 4 houses on that section of ground is too many. But I also understand that legally, we cannot tell the engineer or the owner that they can't do that. So, I guess my only choice then is, when the vote comes up, is to abstain.
Anybody else have any questions or comments at this time?
Yeah, this is Eric Holt. This is one of the staff analysis says no changes to stormwater along the roadways are proposed. I've seen Valshall and Cool flood. That corner is a mess. I need to have some more. I need to have some sort of a plan on some stormwater drainage there. And there is one conduit that's upstream at College and Cool that is bigger than the one at Valshall and Cool. And I'm a stormwater guy, so I need to have. I don't know. I feel like there's some work that needs to be done there. And yes, the building of any houses, whether it's 2 or 4, is going to exacerbate that problem.
So, Commissioner Holt, are you thinking postpone this to the next meeting, or so you can look at the stormwater issue closer, maybe have the engineer get together with George Butler to follow up on? There is a letter in the packet from GBA. Can you pull that up? Who is the city's contracted independent engineer that reviews their engineer calculations. We can, as the applicant said, he does not have that information here with him tonight to address the calculations. There is this letter from our engineer that says it meets essentially our code criteria. It's within the accepted guidelines. There are no concerns with stormwater flow from this preliminary plat. But that's the conclusion without the math. It's well within the commission's purview to want to see the math if you want to.
I would like to see the math, yeah. I grew up on Warren Avenue, which is nearby, and I remember as a kid, and I know still that area hasn't changed, and I want to see the math.
Well, go ahead and make a motion there, Mr. Holt.
Yep, I want to make a motion to table sub D-92 Cool College additional final plat until we get a little additional detail on our stormwater calculations to make sure that we do have a feasible path forward for that development.
And they can add sidewalks onto that.
Yeah, and add the condition for the sidewalk requirements as discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Holt.
I'll second that.
A second? Who was that?
Mike Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We have a motion by Mr. Holt, second by Mr. Cooper, to table the Cool College Edition subdivision preliminary final plat subdivision 92 until we get further stormwater numbers and then the sidewalks and so forth, the conditions. And we appreciate everybody's comments tonight from the public. We appreciate the good work from the engineer working with us to make sure that we have the right information, and appreciate all. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote?
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Deitch?
I will vote in the affirmative for Mr. Holt's,
Tabling.
Thank you.
yes, yeah.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0, and hopefully we'll see that back in front of us next month. Any other questions or time? We'll close the meeting.
I got
turn
one.
it back over to Mr. Graville and Mr. Burks.
I have a comment that something I think we need to look at is the factor of letting, they're building these houses with second stories, and they're putting 2x4s or 2x6s up across the back. I think we should have them look at, there should be a minimum of some type of small deck on the back, because I've seen houses with 10 years down the line, they still got the 2x4 in the back. I just wonder if it's something we need to think about.
Are you talking they haven't built the deck yet?
Yeah, they're building these new houses and they're
With the double doors and the deck's
Yeah.
not built, okay.
and I think we need to do something about the
Square
fact.
footage on the deck too, so they don't just put a pallet on post out there.
Yeah,
We're looking at minimum house size square footage of raising that as well. I know, but I think that's something we can add to the minimum house size.
I know exactly what he's
Right.
talking about. Go to Warrior Avenue.
Oh.
And I don't want to say a percentage, but the houses aren't completed with their deck. Obviously, the builder got it put together as cheap as they could so they could get rid of it as quick as they could. And same thing will happen there with those houses if they don't put a requirement for a deck on the back.
Well, we'll take a look at that and try to get some response, and I think if it's not addressed in code currently, it's, I think, another topic for discussion to review at the, the work session. That I don't know if it's been proposed yet, but it was proposed to.
just something to think about in the future.
I agree, we should add that to the agenda. My fiance makes comments about that very issue when we take walks in the neighborhood.
Yeah, 2x4 across the back.
Yeah.
My neighborhood too.
Yeah. Yep.
And a lot of people can't afford to go ahead and build a deck back there, but if it's already there and
At least
take care of the
something.
problem.
At least something.
Mr. Burks, do you have anything for the good of the group?
I just want to remind the members, there is a work session with the Board of Aldermen on June 16th at 5 o'clock. And for next month, we have a record plat for the estate at Pickney Ridge and a zone change and subdivision for 1051 South Water Street.
Thank you, guys. Mr. Deitch?
I move that we close the meeting and adjourn.
Seconded.
Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Good night from Kansas.